I don't know what's going on there. Um, hey guys, I don't know if anybody's here because sometimes the number's not right and somebody will be here and it won't say there's anyone here. So, and then sometimes it'll say there's a lot of people here, but nobody will be talking in the chat. So, I don't know if anybody is hanging out with me today yet or not, but hey, how you doing? It's been a couple weeks since I did the study. Um, I I feel like today is gonna be a little wonky. I already don't feel like this is gonna be one of the best studies I've done, but we'll see. Um, and if nobody shows up, I guess people will see this on the replay if they want to watch it. But I'm kind of just talking just to give people time to show up, to come in, to decide if they want to come watch the study. Haven't slept very much lately. Yes, I'm drinking a Coca-Cola. Dr. Pepper is usually my drink if I drink a soda, but for some reason I grabbed that. It's not very satisfying. I think I'd rather go back to my water. But we've been studying the book of 1 Samuel, and it has been since what date was it? The second, since we've actually studied together. And the last time we had talked about how that God had rarely spoken through the prophets, like he did Moses and Joshua in 3 centuries, and how that by Eli's time there were no prophets speaking God's message to Israel, and we don't know why it happened. We don't know if it was because the people were stubborn or if they just didn't want to listen to God. We don't know what it was. We don't know if they were greedy, and if they were seeking him, things like that. We know that by the time Eli's children were born, that they were desecrating God's house. They were doing things that they shouldn't have been. And even Eli, whenever God called Samuel, he didn't realize that it was God until the third time that God had called Samuel to him whenever he was sleeping as a child, when Samuel was a child. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with chapter 4. I want to go through chapter 4 and 5 today. I have full confession, full thoughts on this. Since Selena left, I have read my Bible because I feel like if I don't read my Bible, I don't feel normal. I don't feel like I should. Not for a legalistic reason, not because I feel like that I have to be reading my Bible every day to be a good Christian. It's not anything to do with that. It's because the Bible is God's love letter to us. It is our instruction book. It is what helps us to learn and hear from God. So if I don't read it every day, I feel like I'm not talking to somebody I need to talk to, not talking to somebody I love, even though I do pray. It's a different situation. It's like when I pray, I'm doing my part of the conversation, if that makes sense. But when I read my Bible, God is talking to me. So I have been reading my Bible since everything went on with Selena, since she left home and everything. But I haven't been studying like in depth or anything like that. And whenever I sat down to study for today, it was extremely hard. Not because I didn't want to do it, but because I just feel so mentally exhausted. So I hope that as I do this today, that it's okay, that it works out, that you get something from it and I get something from it. Yes, I did learn some things from this when I was studying, but I don't know. Um, it didn't feel the same as when I normally study. It just felt like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like I didn't feel like I could understand as easily what was going on. Like, and maybe there wasn't any reason to. Maybe these 2 chapters, there was nothing, no special message to me, I guess you could say. I don't know. I really don't know. But I know that I'm going to try. I'm not going to quit. And this is actually the first time that I've had difficulties with study um, like this. So it's the first time I've ever been through what I'm going through right now. So anyway, still nobody here, but I'm going to go ahead. And I'm going to do like I normally would do, and I'm going to read, and then, I have notes. I do have notes. I did write notes. There were some things that I wanted to remember. Um, some things I did think about whenever, if I'm now thinking about what I was thinking about whenever I was studying this last night, because I studied it last night. There were some things that kind of made me think about now, because I feel like the Bible is a timeless book, and it can be something that you can, even though the things that happened were several thousand years ago, it resonates with us now too, even though our times are different, even though we have all the gadgets and things and stuff, and life is supposed to be easier. It can still have similarities, if that makes sense, because we're all still people. And as I said, I'm very tired. I've been yawning a ton, and please excuse that. So let's get started. Verse 1 in chapter 4. Now the Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines at Aphek. The Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel, and as the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. When the soldiers returned to camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord bring defeat on us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that he may go with us and save us from the hands of our enemies." So, I want to stop there, and the note I wrote is for like verses 3 through 10, but I just read verse 3. So I want to read what I wrote. That said, the ark was looked at as if it was God himself. Wow, I spelled himself way off. Okay. The ark was looked at as if it was God himself. It wasn't supposed to be removed from the most holy place, and the people disobeyed God, and many died and the ark was stolen, which I shouldn't have read that yet, but I'll expand on it. But they were looking at the ark, in my thoughts, as an idol, as a thing that was God, just like, which we will talk about, um, a Philistine god in a few moments. They looked at it the way that people look at the statues, or looked at the statues that were their gods, the little g gods. So that's the way people were looking at the ark, the way it seems to me. And the ark was where that the 10 Commandments were stored, and things that God had said to put in there. It was supposed to be kept in a special place in the most holy place. It was not supposed to be removed by anyone except certain people, certain priests. And I believe that it was twice a year that those priests would go in to where that place was. I think it was twice a year. I could be wrong about that because it's been about a while since I studied about the actual ark. But the people thought, let's take the ark with us. That way God's with us. And sometimes we feel like God's not with us unless we have a certain things done. Just like I was saying that, oh my goodness, something just hit me. I said I don't feel like, which I do feel like God's with me all the time, but I don't feel like I'm having a conversation with him unless I read my Bible. So I don't guess that's the same thing. Is it the same thing? It's not that the Bible is an idol, but that's him talking to me. So could I be looking at it the same way? I don't know. Anyway, let's go on to verse 4. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord Almighty, who was enthroned between the cherubim. And then Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And remember, there had been a prophecy that God had told Eli that his sons and he would die. And because they were wicked, they had no right to even touch the ark, in my thoughts, because these 2 men, even though they were supposed to be the ones that were doing the sacrifices, that were supposed to be doing all the things that God said for people to be forgiven, they were mistreating it. They were degrading it. They were desecrating the holy place. They were treating God as if he didn't matter. So these 2 men were not even worthy to touch the ark, in my thoughts. All right, verse 5. When the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp, all Israel raised such a great shout that the ground shook. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines said, "What's all the shouting in the Hebrew camp?" When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. So the Philistines looked at the ark as if it was a god, like the little g god, like their gods. And they said, "A god has come into the camp," they said. "Oh no, nothing like this has happened before. We're doomed. Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? They are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong, Philistines, be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines looked at the ark, as if it was gods, multiple gods, and they had no understanding of God. So they had no understanding other than that God had destroyed the Egyptians. They didn't know there was one true God. They didn't know that it was because they didn't know God, they assumed he was like theirs, but they assumed also that there were multiple and that they would be destroyed the way the Egyptians were. That's my take on this. That's my thoughts. Verse 10. So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated, and every man fled to his tent. The slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. So right there, that's when Hophni and Phinehas died. God had foretold this. He had said it was going to happen, and now it's happened. Verse 12. That same day, a Benjamite ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he arrived, there was Eli sitting on his chair by the side of the road watching, because his heart feared for the ark of God. When the man entered the town and told what had happened, the whole town sent up a cry. So Eli was there when all of this happened, he was sitting there, and he was afraid for the ark. He was afraid for, like, to me, it sounds like he looked at the ark as being God, not just a representation of God. And the ark was not God. It just was not. Verse 14, Eli heard the outcry and asked, I'm sorry. Eli heard the outcry and asked, what is the meaning of this uproar? The man hurried over to Eli, who was 98 years old and whose eyes had failed so that he could not see. He told Eli, I have just come from the battle line, and I fled from there this very day. Eli asked, what happened, my son? The man who brought the news replied, Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered heavy losses. Also, your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate. His neck was broken, and he died. For he was an old man, and he was heavy. He had led Israel for 40 years. So on that day, Hophni, Phinehas, and Eli, all three died. Eli died whenever he heard the ark had been captured, not when he heard about his sons, from what I just read. I'm not saying he didn't care about his kids. I'm not saying he didn't care about his children, but the ark was a symbol of God, and I feel like that the people, the Israelites had gotten so far from God by this time that they had a skewed perception of who God was and what God was. They had no prophets. They were just in a huge spiritual mess, is the only way I know to say it. And that's like whenever we get away from God, whenever we walk away from God, we get into a spiritual mess. Our minds are skewed. We don't know, what is right and wrong anymore. And that's why that I say um, that we do need to stay in the Bible, whether we're just reading it or studying it. Verse 19, his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant and near the time of delivery. I'm so sorry. I'm just so tired. I don't know what else to say. But I'm going to try to keep going because I'm not going to sleep. I need to sleep tonight, so I'm going to stay awake. Even though I could go right over there and snuggle up and go to sleep. Um, When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured and her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she went into labor and gave birth, but was overcome by her labor pains. As she was dying, the women attending her said, Don't despair, you have given birth to a son. But she did not respond or pay any attention. She named the boy Ichabod, saying, The glory has departed from Israel because of the capture of the ark of God and the deaths of her father-in-law and her husband. She said, The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured. And Ichabod means without glory. So, chapter 4, the people I feel like they were so, in my southern crazy talk, whatever it is, they were so messed up in the head. They were so far from God and had not had a word from God in so long that they looked at things as God. And they had a knowledge of God. They knew who he was. They knew the things he had done, but they didn't. It's like people who say they're Christians, but they don't do the work of learning who God is by reading his word and by praying and listening to that still small voice that you have, that he tells you things. Because there are thoughts we can have that I know for a fact come from God, and then there are also thoughts we have that I know for a fact can come from Satan. Usually the ones that come from Satan are the ones that's going to hurt you. God will never tell you to do anything that's going to harm you. And a lot of times, if you're far from God, you're going to do those things that are going to harm you because you think they won't. You don't think about what you're doing. You just think about the here and now, not the future. You just go ahead and live day to day without seeking guidance from the one who you need to seek from. You don't seek from God. You don't seek wise counsel. You don't read your Bible. You don't do the things you should. So these people had not heard from God in so long, and they had gotten so far from God. Their leaders had gotten so far from God that God had departed, is what she's saying. So, chapter 5, at least that's my take on it. I could be wrong. Chapter 5, after the Philistines had captured the ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then they carried the ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. Let's see, sometimes it takes a literal quiet time of a few hours to sit and think and be comfortable with our feelings. He will help us if we do our part. For me, that is quiet time. Exactly. Coffee does not help me, Donna. It doesn't. I do not know why. I've actually talked to my doctor about it. He says I metabolize caffeine too fast. I can actually drink coffee and go right to bed. Like, I can drink a pot of coffee and go to sleep. It does not wake me up. I don't know why. Um, Coffee does make me sleepy, right? Yeah, but yeah, it just doesn't help me. But anyway, the Philistines had put the ark in their temple, in their place. Um, Benadryl makes me go to sleep too. So I don't know. I don't know of anything that wakes me up. Honestly, I don't. Um, Other than having a good night's rest, which hasn't been happening lately. Let's see, where was I at? Uh, the Philistines put the ark into their false god's temple, just like he was one of their gods, or a like they. I get, in my thoughts, they put it where that they thought that it should be, I guess, but they put it beside Dagon, which was a god of crop fertility. Um, when the ground before the ark of the Lord. Wait a minute, where was that? I skipped a line. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. But the following morning, when they rose, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. His head and hands had been broken off and were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. So his torso was there in front of the ark of the Lord, like bowing. This false god was bowing to the ark. And I know that didn't happen because somebody did it. The Philistines didn't go in there and play a trick. It wasn't something like that because they respected their gods. This was God's hand in this. That is why to this day, neither the priest of Dagon nor any others who enter Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. So I don't know if people now still worship Dagon. Probably do. But they don't step on the threshold of the ark of the Lord. Of the of Dagon temple. Okay. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod and its vicinity. He brought devastation on them and afflicted them with tumors. Which, let's see, I don't know. I probably should have done this before, but I wonder. Let's see if the tumors were like. Well, it's happened in other places in the Bible, but it doesn't really talk about it in this Bible. This is a study Bible, but it's not. I mean, I've got lots of study Bibles, and different ones talk about different parts of things. Um, I should have done more study, I guess. It doesn't really matter. They had tumors. Okay. When the people of Ashdod saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy on us and Dagon our God. On Dagon our God." So, in other words, they were saying God is hurting us and our God. So they called together all the rulers of Philistines and asked them, "What shall we do with the ark of God of Israel?" They answered, "Have the God of Israel moved to Gath." So they moved the ark of the God of Israel. But after they had moved it, the Lord's hand was against that city, throwing it to a great panic. He afflicted the people in the city, both young and old, with an outbreak of tumors. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. As the ark of God was entering Ekron, the people of Ekron cried out, "They have brought the ark of God of Israel around to us to kill us and our people." So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and said, "Send the ark of God of Israel away. Let it go back to its own place, or it will kill us and all of our people." For death had filled the city with panic. God's hands was very heavy on it. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. So that's all of chapter 5. So every place they took the ark wasn't the right place. It wasn't the most holy place. So bad things happened. People were dying. People were sick. They had tumors. They were in a panic. They were, "Get this thing out of here. We don't want this God here. He's not where, this is not our God. We don't want him here. Get him away." And I believe that this happened because I wrote down, God is one of order. He has a reason for all of the commands, and our job is to follow them. He told the people, "Put my ark here in this way. Do everything this way. Don't veer from these rules. Don't go away from this. This is the way it needs to be done." And the reason why that is because God is a God of order. He is not going to tell you to do something that's going to hurt you. And honestly, everything I've ever read in the Bible that is a command from God, it is something that's going to help you. It's going to help your life be better. And it's not hard to live by his commands. And if they would have just left the ark where it belonged, that was 3 different cities. Well, actually 4, because the Israelite army and then the 3 Philistine cities that were afflicted. So 4 people, 4 groups were afflicted because they put the ark where it didn't belong. One of the reasons one of the ways that they put it where it didn't belong is they looked at it as if it was an idol. They worshipped it and not God. They thought it was going to help them. Not, they looked at it. It's kind of difficult for me to explain this one because the way my brain says it's like that was God and not God. Like God wasn't everywhere for them. Like he is everywhere for us. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere, all seeing. And they didn't understand that. They didn't understand that God was not in that box. And if we put God in that little box, even though what the ark wasn't little, but if you put God in a box, he can't do the things that is needed to make your life better. So they had him in this box and they thought, okay, he's going to help us in this battle. Well, instead, 30,000 died, and then all of Eli's family died, which I want to know what happened now. I want to know what happened to Ichabod because from what I had understood, all of Eli's lineage was going to die. So maybe I'll have to figure that out after I'm done here and find out if I can find out what? Find out if I can learn about what happened to Ichabod. Um, but they put him in a box. And then the Philistines captured the ark and they put him with their little g gods, is what I call them. They're false gods. They put his ark there as if it was just another one of those symbols, another one of those things. It's like some doctors just look and put us in a box, medically speaking, and don't look for real answers. Exactly. Okay, Carol. All right. Well, it'll be here. But anyway, um the Philistines put him in with their gods. Well, even their god bowed down and worshipped. He lost his head and arms and legs because of it. I mean, he's not real, but God can show people in meaningful ways. And they the people, every one of those cities that the Philistines moved the ark to, those people suffered. Those people ended up sick and dying because they did not look at God from the perspective of who he really is. They didn't see that he is someone who helps, someone who cares. They just saw him as this thing that they can come to whenever they need him. And if we only come to God when we need him, if we don't come to God when we're in a good place, those times whenever we need him are going to be a lot harder. And I feel like right now, if what is going on in my life had been going on in my life 10 years ago, I would be in a much harder place than where I'm at right now. I'm not saying what's going on is easy. I'm not saying I'm happy. But I have, anytime that I start feeling like I can't go anymore, like I just want to curl up in a ball and cry, which I have done, or that I just want to go to sleep and sleep until it's all over, which I can't seem to sleep anyway. But anytime I've had those things, God's there. And he's there because I haven't left him the whole time. Like, I still read my Bible. I still pray. I still thank God for the good things he's done for me. I still talk to him, and I just feel like if I was treating God as an idol, as an outlet when I was going through the hard times, then I wouldn't be okay right now. And I can say that I'm okay most of the time right now. There are times when I'm not. But when I'm not, he comforts me. He gives me the help I need. And I know that this is going to be okay in the end, if that makes sense. But I didn't just come to the ark and think it was an idol. I didn't just pick up my Bible when Selena left and start trying to find God. I already was seeking him daily. So as soon as things happened, I went to prayer. As soon as things happened, God started saying things. And yes, I'm still sad. Yes, I still cry daily. I have many questions that I may not ever get answers to. But I didn't misplace God. And the Israelites in this place, they misplaced him. They put him in a place he didn't belong. And then other people took him to places he didn't belong. And everyone suffered. So my main thing with today is don't misplace him, because whenever the hard times come, and they will come, because we are not promised perfection. We are not promised that every day of our life is going to be grand. When those days come, we can reach over and say, hey, God, I need you a little bit extra today. And he'll be there. And which the last part of chapter 5, it does say that the Philistines are like, let's take it back. Let's give it back to the people. And then in chapter 6, which I probably could have done it today, but I didn't know if I'd have enough time, so I didn't want to do it. The ark will be returned to Israel. But let's see, we've got how many more chapters in 1 Samuel? Oh, quite a few. Quite a few, because it has... I can't turn pages. 31 chapters. All right, we got a lot of chapters left. So, I guess the message I got today is keep seeking. Even if I can't sit down and study, I'm still going to sit down and read. I'm still going to pray. I'm not going to, like, I remember before when I was going through hard things, I didn't pick up my Bible during those times because I didn't have the energy. And those things were harder on me. Then I remember other times when things were hard that I did pick up my Bible and things were easier. And it's not that it's completely wonderful and everything's grand, but it's a huge help. It's a peace that I have. So, don't be like the Israelites of Eli's time, I guess, is the whole thing. But let's see, to be clear, my quiet time is listening to God more, not trying to do stuff on my own, especially when I get upset, off routine, or angry. Yeah, there's a lot of times, well, lately, the only thing that has helped me is let's put it this way. Not the only thing that's helped me, that's not the proper wording, but things that have helped me during the last little over 2 weeks is I will do the daily task that I normally do, which I've been recording it, not all of it, but some of it. I will do those daily tasks to keep my mind where it needs to be. And during the time I'm doing those tasks, a lot of times I'm praying, because you can pray no matter what. No matter what's going on, you can pray. You can talk to God. But I'll be loading the dishwasher and praying, unloading the dishwasher and praying, folding clothes. And, I'm doing those little mundane, everyday housewife tasks. And they've helped me get through the days. But the first couple of days, I just sat on the couch. I didn't really do anything because I was like frozen. I couldn't do anything. And then I thought, if I don't get up and do the dishes, the dishes were done. It's not like I had a filthy, disgusting kitchen, but if I don't get up and wash the clothes, if I don't get up and vacuum the floor, if I don't do these things, by the time I feel like doing it, it's going to be such a huge task. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's like it would be a cycle of more pain, honestly, because whenever you don't do things you know you need to do. A lot of times you'll beat yourself up about it. At least I do. So I go ahead and do those tasks. And those little tasks have helped me get through it. Um, Also, all of you helping me get through it, talking to me, telling me your experiences whenever you've gone through something similar to this, the emails, the messages on Instagram, the comments here on videos, all those little things that you ladies have said, and some gentlemen, you've said to me that have comforted me, have helped me to go through this and not get totally depressed. And I'm not going to say that I haven't had some form of depression, but I'm not like as bad as I could be, if that makes sense. Um, but anyway, I feel like the last couple days I've been able to smile. I still feel guilty if I laugh. Or the last several days, I feel guilty when I'm laughing, and it's just so ridiculous because I feel like I shouldn't be happy. But there's no reason for me not to be. There's no reason for me not to find something funny. But it's just like right now my mind is everywhere. It's a mess. But I didn't leave God, and He's showing me it's okay. It's okay to be normal and to feel normal feelings, to think normal things, to laugh at something Noah tells me, because he's constantly, like, he's always done things to make me laugh or try to make me laugh. So yeah, I don't really know. I'm just a ball of confusion right now. But I don't even know why I'm talking about it, other than I haven't really talked about it much on here. Um, so I don't know, but I guess that's all for the study today. I don't have anything else. I didn't have enough, I guess. I thought that would be enough. It was 2 chapters, but it really, I guess I covered it. I don't know. You guys can let me know. But I will see y'all next time. I do have a video coming out tonight, and I think I'm going to be doing daily videos the way I've been doing it. I'm enjoying doing the daily vlogs. I still cover everything that I have been covering, like grocery hauls and cooking and things. But I think I like this a little bit better. And they have been a little bit more fun to put together, I guess you could say, if that makes sense. I still haven't quite decided how I want to do my planner videos. I'm kind of leaning towards that just being its own standalone video without being part of the vlog, because I know that some ladies have commented that they like me talking through the planner videos. They like me talking about what I'm doing and things like that. So I may mix it up. I may have a standalone planner video and the vlog on the same day sometimes, or I may just put the planner video in with the vlog on some days. But if I decide to do a standalone, that means there will be 2 videos for those days. So we'll see. Also, the new scripture writing plan is up for September. If anybody wants it, it is on my link tree, and it's free. I don't charge for it, so it's there for you if you want it. And I'm still continuing with doing the Psalms. I'm still writing the Psalms. I think I want to go through all of them. No, I'm not going to write every single Psalm. I haven't done that so far, but I think for the next few months, that's where I want to stay, unless I feel like there's a different direction I need to take. But it's somewhere that I find a lot of comfort, is in the Psalms. So, and I started it before all this went on with Selena, so I feel like maybe He put me there to help me now, if that makes sense. So, anyway, I'm going to go, and I got laundry to do. Not a lot, but I've got some. And I will see y'all in the video tonight. And thank you guys for hanging out with me. And remember, don't take any wooden nickels, and be sweet.